Sorry, I just need to share the video again. Thank you. I was invited to speak about the upcoming World Congress for Neurorehabilitation, and really pleased to really highlight some of our keynote speakers and some of the sessions that will be coming up in Vancouver in May.
Será en Vancouver, Canadá, el 2024.
So just a few details about the Congress. It is held in Vancouver on the West Coast in Canada. Vancouver is one of the most west cities in Canada. And often people think of Canada being very, very cold. But in fact, Vancouver is really quite mild weather. It is very rare that we actually get any snow. Most years we don't get any snow. We have a climate that is fairly close to Seattle in the USA, and we have the mildest or warmest climate in Canada. So we're not really reflective of the really cold Canadian weather that many people think of. So just some really essential dates. There's just a couple of days left. If you are interested in submitting an abstract, whether it's for an oral presentation or a poster presentation, the deadline is November 30th. So please submit your abstracts. The abstract date was already extended. And so this will be the final deadline for the abstracts. From what I've heard, the number of the abstracts has already surpassed the conference from the last one. Some of you may have gone to the Vienna conference, and our numbers are already higher than that for abstract submissions. So really great to hear that we have a really good uptake, and I think shows that people are really eager to travel as well. And then the other deadline to know, February 23rd of next year, is the early bird registration. So that is when the registration is a little bit cheaper if you want to get a better rate on it. After February 23rd, the registration rate will go up.
After esta fecha, el valor será un poco mayor.
So this just shows the World Federation Neuro Rehab Executive. They have had a lot of input into the conference. Most of them also help to review abstracts as well as symposiums as well. With Volker Homburg is the president of the World Federation. As you can see, Dr. Hernandez Franco is also a member as well, and they have a really good global membership as well. In addition, we have a local organizing committee from Vancouver, Canada. Myself, I'm a full professor at the University of British Columbia, and I also work out of the rehabilitation hospital. It's called the GF Strong Rehab Center. Our hospital has spinal cord injury, stroke, traumatic brain injury, as well as neuromuscular conditions, amputees as well. And my own research is mostly in clinical trials. And so I'm actually, I co-lead the Canadian Stroke Recovery Clinical Trials platform, where we run a number of trials across Canada. And I have a small interest in spinal cord injury. I'm the lead of the SCIRE project, the Spinal Cord Injury Research Evidence Project, which is a web-based medium for healthcare providers. We have about 250,000 healthcare providers access our website every year on best practice. And other members of our team have representation from spinal cord, traumatic brain injury, and stroke. But obviously, neurorehabilitation is very diverse. And so we have other members from our team across Canada. Includes people, for example, Dr. Dale Corbett, who is a basic science using animal models of recovery. Dr. Marcia Finlayson is an expertise in multiple sclerosis. And Dr. Chen and Dr. Almeida is expertise in movement disorders, particularly in Parkinson's disease. So we have some breadth of expertise on our committee. In Vancouver, we have a number of centers, and I'm just in the midst of trying to organize some tours during the Congress. For sure, the middle one, I'd really like to get a tour organized. This is our I-Cord Spinal Cord Center, which is world-renowned. This actually is a ramp built for people with spinal cord injury to go all the way up to the 3rd floor. And it is a beautiful building with state-of-the-art technology and treatments provided both for research and clinical care as well. On the main floor of the I-Cord Center, we actually have a fitness center. And the fitness center is for the public, for anyone who has a spinal cord injury. From the public can come in and exercise free. And we maintain that for the public. It's also a huge asset for us and a means of partnering with patients, so we can partner with patients in our research, as well as it helps to recruit patients and participants as well. Every time a patient goes into this public gym that we have that is outfitted for equipment with spinal cord, they have already consented, and so all their activities are tracked, so we can actually publish how often are they coming in and how frequently. So we use the actual gym as a larger research study of how people with spinal cord injury participate in physical activity, and we measure them periodically. So it's a win-win for us in providing a partnership with patients on site and having access to patients as partners in our research. So I'm hoping to get a visit with this site so we can have a tour during the Congress. Another center that we have locally here is the Pacific Parkinson's Research Institute, which is our unit led by Dr. Martin McEwen in Parkinson's. And we also have a very large Center for Brain Health, the David Mahavagian Research Center, which has everything from dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, stroke, and a very wide variety of brain conditions.
Es más diverso en términos de los diagnósticos neurológicos.
So these are a few of the topics that we've developed symposiums on already that may interest you. We have one, at least one on long COVID treatment in rehabilitation. We have several across conditions on neuromodulation methods, including transcutaneous stimulation, vagal nerve stimulation, which has a lot of growing interest, particularly in brain injury, as well as epidural stimulation. We have a number of talks in community reintegration. And I think since COVID, telehealth has just boomed. And certainly in my own field of physical therapy, prior to the pandemic, I think about 5% of physical therapists were using
el
telehealth.
5%
During the pandemic, about 85%
de
of physical
los
therapists
de
were using
los
telehealth.
kinesiólogos
And now
usaban
that we're, well,
telerehabilitación
near
antes de la
normal,
pandemia, y este número
I
incrementó
would say
mucho
there's a
más
good
durante
portion of physical
la pandemia.
therapists still using telehealth,
Y aún los
especially to
terapeutas usan
reach rural and
en la
remote
telerehabilitación,
small
especialmente para
communities, which
alcanzar
is a
poblaciones
really
rurales o
positive.
remotas.
So I think there's a lot of people really interested in
Yo creo que
speaking
todavía hay
about this.
mucha
So we have
gente
several
interesada
sessions
en
on
telerehabilitación y hay
telehealth
varias
and how
sesiones
they
sobre
manage
esto
telehealth.
en el Congreso.
We have a number of sessions on pain management, including a
Tenemos varias
symposium
sesiones
on
sobre el
cannabis.
manejo del dolor, incluyendo el uso de cannabis medicinal.
Interestingly, the symposium is not from Canada. I did note it is, but I believe, led by Europe. But in Canada,
organizado por Europa,
cannabis legislation has
pero
been legal
Canadá,
for the last, I
también
think, 3
el
years.
uso de la cannabis
Actually,
es legal
en
los últimos años.
particularly in our hospital,
Particularmente en
patients
nuestro
with
hospital,
spinal cord
los pacientes con lesiones espinales
are frequent users of cannabis for pain. It is
están
can be part of their treatment.
invitados y
And
abiertos
it's
a
something our
recibir cannabis para el
physicians
tratamiento
struggle
del
with
dolor.
on the prescription, because there isn't really a lot of guidance about the cannabis prescription.
Hay problemas aún sí con la prescripción,
I
a
think
pesar
all
de
of
que hay
us has
muchas
really seen
guías clínicas alrededor de eso.
and heard about artificial intelligence
También hay
and
otros
getting
tópicos sobre
excited about it.
inteligencia artificial.
We have
Estamos
several on artificial intelligence,
felices sobre este
where those
tópico, y
applications
también
will
sobre
be. Some of the
ciencia de datos.
applications in our sessions are with looking at interactive wearable sensors and using
Otro
artificial intelligence to recognize movement.
Particularmente estamos enfocados en el uso de wearables, de
Areas of
tecnologías portables
artificial
que puedan
intelligence I've
medir
seen in our
ciertas
sessions
características de los
are in
pacientes
recognizing
y cómo usar esto por
data
medio de
and using
inteligencia
them as
artificial.
predictors. So recognizing brain
Particularmente
images
estamos
and
enfocados
predicting
en
outcomes.
predicciones
I think
outcomes
there's
futuros
going to
a
be
partir de
a
estos
lot of use of
usos
artificial
de
intelligence
información,
in
de sensores
rehabilitation.
portables
In my own
y
center
del uso de
here in Vancouver,
procesamiento
we
de
have a
datos por medio de
center
inteligencia
with
artificial.
about 50 faculty that I lead, and we've recently hired 4 engineers who specialize in artificial
Estamos
intelligence.
trabajando fuertemente en esto y recientemente contratamos
And
4
I
ingenieros
think there's just a
para
lot of
trabajar en
synergies with
inteligencia artificial
rehabilitation in the future.
en relación a predictores
There
en el
is
futuro
a
en
symposium on
rehabilitación.
clinical trial networks. I'm not involved with this one, but it
No
is
estoy involucrada
that
en el
one
siguiente
is
tópico,
looking
que
at
son redes para los ensayos clínicos.
a stroke network
Hay
between
una
Australia,
red en relación
speakers from
a
Australia, the United States,
accidente
and Canada,
vascular entre Australia,
speaking
Canadá y Estados
about
Unidos.
the efficiencies of utilizing clinical trial networks for recruitment and for synergies
Vamos
as
a
well.
hablar, ellos van a hablar, perdón,
There is a
sobre la
lot
eficiencia en el
about
reclutamiento y en el
several
desarrollo de
sessions
ensayos
about
clínicos.
prescribing rehabilitation intensity and
Hay
their
otra sesión
outcomes on neuroplasticity.
para hablar sobre la intensidad de la
We have a
rehabilitación
keynote
y
speaker I'll speak about in a
neuroplasticidad.
second, and other sessions on the
También hay
microbiome
una nota
and
especial sobre
neurological disease.
el
And just
microbioma
lastly,
y enfermedades
we will
neurológicas.
have several sessions on successful careers in
Varias
mentoring
sesiones
rehabilitation research.
alrededor
We also have a
del
special
desarrollo de la
one
carrera
for women in science as
en
well.
investigación en rehabilitación, particularmente en la investigación para mujeres.
In terms of the formats, they're pretty similar to formats I'm sure you have been to
El
before,
formato es muy
with the
similar a los
presidential
congresos previos.
lecture, plenary
Primero
lectures,
es la
symposiums
charla del
as well,
presidente,
and
luego
roundtables.
las plenarias,
I have
luego
been
los
asked whether
simposios.
the
También
conference
hay
will be
sesiones de mesa
hybrid or
redonda.
not. We are really encouraging this conference to be in person, but I
Estamos
believe they will make
promoviendo que sea
some
en persona,
arrangements for people who want to attend hybrid. I think
pero
they will
vamos
not have
también
a separate
probablemente a
hybrid
hacer
pricing
algunas
though, so
sesiones
they
o
are
el
really
congreso de
trying to
manera
encourage
híbrida,
to people to be in
pero
person.
los invitamos fuertemente
But there
que
will be some way
vengan en
to
persona
attend
al congreso.
online if you're not able to attend.
Y si no eres,
We are
o sea, si
arranging
no es posible
a
ir,
free
probablemente será
afternoon
híbrido.
program for people with lived experience, so people with disability, and it will be in one of the afternoons. And I'm just getting information on what those people would like. I've heard they'd like something that's kind of like on the latest clinical trials in neurological rehabilitation. We have a number of practical
Tenemos
workshops.
varias
For
trabajo
example, I am
práctico
doing
o
one
sesiones
with another
prácticas
professor from Taiwan on our GRASP exercise program
Un profesor
for
de Taiwán va a hacer un
improving
taller
upper
sobre el
extremity
GRASP
function
program
after neurological conditions.
después de
And
lesiones
it will
neurológicas.
hopefully be a bit more hands-on.
Será como más aplicado, con
We
manos
will have
activas.
oral and poster sessions.
También
The
tenemos
one
las
thing I
sesiones
have
de póster y
really
presentaciones orales.
emphasized to the conference is I really want as many posters as possible to
A mí
be
personalmente me gustaría tener
in
la mayor
person
cantidad de
with a
póster en
physical
persona.
board. I personally have been to a lot of conferences with electronic posters, and
Yo he estado
I
en varias
find the
sesiones, o sea, en otros
students and the
congresos con
trainees, they
póster
don't get a
electrónico,
lot of time talking to people
pero no da el tiempo
because the
suficiente para
poster
hablar
only
e
comes up
interactuar.
once, it cycles through, and they get 1 minute or so. So our conference center actually has a lot of space,
Nuestro
and
centro de
they
conferencias tiene
feel
mucho
that
espacio
we should be able to accommodate
y nosotros
as
deberíamos ser
many
capaces de
posters as we
recibir
want
la mayor
physically
cantidad de
and have a
póster
time
posible.
slot for people doing posters to present, so that they actually have a slot that they can present and people can come by. And I feel that is a bit better
Entonces, hay un
experience.
espacio
I think the only
amplio para los
downside
presentadores y los que escuchan
to
el podcast.
this is if someone is assigned a poster but then cannot attend, then
Si
we'll
alguien-
have to figure out how we can have some electronic poster for that venue
Para
as well.
quienes no pueden presentar en el Congreso,
I
tenemos
already
que
mentioned
resolver
that we will
cómo
be
será
having
la
a
modalidad.
mentoring program, a developing country forum. I think we have a couple of them.
Tenemos sesiones sobre
We will be
programas
having an
de
exhibitor
apoyo o
hall with
mentorías,
industry-sponsored
foros
symposiums and
sobre
workshops
la rehabilitación en
and
países
new
en desarrollo
products, as
y
usually,
también los
as you
simposios
find
de la
at most
industria
conferences.
y en el hall de exhibiciones los nuevos productos a mostrar.
Our leading keynote speaker is Mr. Rick Hansen.
El
He
speaker
is a person with
líder de
paraplegic.
esta sesión es
He is known as a
Rick
Canadian
Hansen.
hero.
Es un
He
héroe de Canadá.
wheeled around the world and raised over $25 million, which started the Rick Hansen Foundation.
Él
And
fundó
all of it
una
has gone to
fundación en Canadá
spinal cord
y ha
research.
recolectado
Since then, he
muchísimo
has
dinero
leveraged and
en el
fundraised
mundo.
many, many more millions of dollars. Not only has he been instrumental in raising funds for spinal cord research,
Él está enfocado
he has
en
been instrumental in lobbying for accessibility for people
apoyar
with
la rehabilitación de
disabilities,
la
for
lesión espinal.
changing policies at the local level,
Pero no
the
solamente
government
eso, sino que
level,
está
and the
apoyando
national level
el desarrollo de
on
políticas para el
policies
cuidado y la
for
investigación
people with
en lesiones
disability
espinales
when going back to work, for housing standards, and for educational standards.
y también
So
para la
because of his
adaptación de
contributions
los puestos de trabajo
to
para estas
improving
personas
accessibility for
y
people with
también para
disability,
accesibilidad
he was
en
selected
los lugares
as
de
our
educación y
primary
también
first keynote
en las
speaker.
casas y obviamente en los barrios o las calles donde estas personas se encuentran.
Just a couple of our other keynote speakers. Dr. Pam Duncan
Otro
is from the USA.
speaker
Some of you may have
o
used
presentador
her
importante
stroke
es Pam
impact
Duncan.
scale, which she developed a
Ella
long time
desarrolló
ago,
la escala del
1999.
impacto del stroke
It's
o del
a
accidente
well-used
vascular,
patient-centered metric of stroke
que
outcomes.
es
I happen to use it for my research.
una
There's actually many
evaluación
versions
centrada en
now.
el
There's a regular
paciente.
version, a short version, a short version. Some of her seminal trials she had published quite a while ago in the New England Journal of Medicine,
Algunos de
the
estos
LEAPS
resultados ella los
trial,
ha publicado
which
en
was
la revista
a
New
body weight
England
support treadmill training
de medicina
study. But one of the most latest
sobre
trials that
marcha
she ran
y el uso de
is the
treadmill.
COMPASS trial.
Otro de sus
The
estudios
COMPASS trial is
importantes es
still
el
being
COMPASS
published now. I
estudio,
think there's
es servicios
over
para el accidente vascular
30 publications that have
agudo.
come from this study. It was a cluster randomized trial to look at an early
es un
supported
ensayo clínico
discharge program
randomizado por
over
grupo
6,000
para medir la
patients and
efectividad
40 hospitals.
de
And I believe
el
she's
alta
going to be
temprana de un
speaking
programa
about
en 40
this
hospitales
particular
y
study
6,000
as it's
pacientes.
they're still generating papers from the study now.
Y aún está generando artículos científicos desde esta investigación.
Dr. Brett Finley is from Canada.
Otro
He is a
importante
microbiologist
speaker es Brent
who looks
Finley
at
de Canadá.
host-microbe interactions He's published over 500 peer-reviewed publications and received the Order of Canada, which is the highest honor you can receive in Canada. His research looks at the interactions of the microbiome and neurological disease, including Parkinson's disease. He's actually written a couple bestseller books. One of them is called Let Them Eat Dirt, which is about young children and the sanitization that we do and keeping them clean and how it could lead to infection, and the whole body microbiome.
Y otro libro sobre cómo dejarlos comer.
One of our other speakers is Dr. Pam Enderby from the UK. She's a speech language therapist and has been recognized for work in outcome measurements and therapies. And her research includes trials on electrical stimulation and exercise for swallowing rehabilitation. She's also looked at computerized therapy for aphasia, as well as drug trials on antipsychotics on speech as well. One of the last speakers I'll just mention is Dr. Robin Green, who is a neuropsychologist who studies brain and behavioral mechanisms from traumatic brain injury. And she looks at the progressive neurodegenerative processes that occur years after injury, as well as their associated clinical outcomes. And she has looked at a number of treatments, including cognitive training and environmental enrichment on traumatic brain injury outcomes. So I'll just talk to you if you have never been to Vancouver. I'm sure many of you have. Vancouver is a really accessible city, and that is in part because we've had a lot of leaders in who have had a disability. This is one of our former mayors, Mayor Sam Sullivan, who was the mayor of Vancouver, and he had a tetraplegic injury and was a huge advocate in improving the accessibility of the city. As you can imagine, it was very helpful in that regard. We've even had one of our former premiers of our province, BC, who also had a spinal cord injury as well.
Él tiene la lesión espinal y un gran promotor de la inclusión dentro de la comunidad.
It's really a safe, walkable, multicultural city. You'll hear lots of languages in Vancouver. It's about a 30-minute walk across the Vancouver city. So it's not a huge city by any means.
Gigante, es una ciudad pequeña.
The convention center is one of the largest, much larger if you had gone to Vienna, much larger than that. So I hope because of that, we can accommodate more, as I said, posters that are in person and get more interaction. Because we do have a lot of space in this particular venue. This is the view you get just looking outside of the convention center. So Vancouver is famous for its mountains and water. In May, the weather should be okay, I hope. It typically is quite dry in May. You can't ever guarantee the weather, but generally it's quite dry at this time. And in terms of places to go, if you're interested to see other parts of Vancouver, probably our most famous area around, we have a seawall, that the Stanley Park seawall, that's a walkable, bikeable path that's about it's about 10 kilometers and circles this really, really beautiful park all along the shore. You can often see seals in here in the water. And we have at one point, we actually got in this area, we actually got a whale stuck in here that got stuck, couldn't get out, that they had to use a boat to get back out into the ocean. We have a beautiful Vancouver aquarium that's within our park as well. And we have a number of local markets. This is one of our Granville Island markets that is close by as well. For those of you that are looking for a little bit more adventure outside of Vancouver, we have a lot of mountains that are close by. At this time, this is the Grouse Mountain that has a gondola you can take up and you can take down. We also, you can actually, if you really, really are energetic and fit, you can actually hike up this mountain. It's called the Grouse Grind, but I really do warn you about this because every year we always have tourists who go up the Grouse Grind in their sandals, and somebody has to rescue them because they get stuck because it is a very steep mountain. So do not go up the Grouse Grind unless you're very fit. Other things that you might want to see in Vancouver, Whistler Blackcomb is a very famous ski resort. In May, I believe the glaciers are still open, and it is pretty much open all year round. There is still a little bit of spring skiing, but mostly glacier skiing in May. Other areas that people like, and the bottom is actually the Whistler Resort, or the Whistler Village, that is beautiful to see all year round. And the other place that is very common for people to go if they're just visiting Vancouver is to take a side trip to Victoria City, which is on our Vancouver Island. So you have to take one of our ferries to get there. And last, I'll just show you a video of our convention center, just to show you some of the sights of Vancouver. So I'm happy to answer questions or also to hear comments too, because if there's something about a conference that you really liked in the past that you hope we're going to do, or something you really didn't like about a conference and you would like to communicate that to me, I'm here to listen as well, because we're still in the midst of putting to the schedule. I think one of the problems I feel that is difficult is that we actually have a lot of room and we can have a lot of multiple sessions, but then other people tell me that they go to the American Congress of Rehabilitation Medicine, ACRM,
al
And they say
Congreso
there's too
Americano de
many
Rehabilitación
sessions,
y hay
and there's
muchas
too
sesiones.
many sessions of small rooms that they would rather have them a smaller number of
Probablemente
sessions
en
that
cada
are
sesión hay
larger. But
muy poca
so it's very
gente.
difficult to balance
Es muy
those
difícil
kinds of issues. Should we have
balancear
lots of sessions that might be smaller rooms
muchas
or
sesiones y grupos
those
pequeños?
kind of things. So
Así
I'm
que ahí
happy
tenemos
to
que
listen to any input,
ver
any
las mejores
thoughts that
soluciones
you've
para
had
esto.
on successful conferences and things that worked for you. Happy to hear your feedback at this time.
Y estoy muy feliz de escuchar tu feedback, tus contribuciones en este momento o preguntas.
Gracias, Janice, por este tremendo esfuerzo de organizar esta conferencia, congreso, que realmente va a ser de
Thanks,
gran
Janice, for organizing the
impacto
meeting.
en
It's a
el área de neurorehabilitación.
huge effort. And we are-
No sé si hay preguntas, como estaba,
I'm not
es
sure
una
if
excelente
anyone would like to
oportunidad
ask.
como profesionales de la neurorehabilitación de Latinoamérica para poder hacer sugerencias, consultas o
So
aportes
if you
para
want
este gran
to give
evento.
suggestions, feedback, or any other comments,
Acá en el chat
in the chat,
dan
Janice,
los
you can
agradecimientos por
see
la presentación y preguntan si
some
va a haber
comments.
algún tópico acerca de parálisis facial.
During the meeting should be some topics about facial palsy.
So one of the questions is there going to be a topic about facial palsy? I don't know. I don't think there is a symposium on that, but the abstracts are still coming in. So I don't know if there will be a session or enough topics on that yet. They haven't all come through yet. But I don't believe there's a symposium on it.
Pablo, agradecemos a Pablo en la traducción. No sé si alcanzaste a traducir esa parte. Sí, ya, perfecto. Vamos en segundos porque hay algunas preguntas, ¿cómo podríamos reunirse o promover ALRN? Lo vamos a responder próximamente, pero quisiera preguntarle a Janice si existe justamente en esta línea algún énfasis en neurorehabilitación infantil o adulto, o cuál es más o menos la división de la organización de estas temáticas.
Janice, the next question is about the pediatric neurorehabilitation.
I'm not seeing the translation. Can you just translate it for me?
Okay, can you hear me? Oh.
Pablo, could you translate that for me?
Can you hear me, Janice, or not? No? Yeah, probably I will speak here because probably we are not choosing the right channels. And basically the previous question was about the balance between the pediatric and adult neurorehabilitation. How is the distribution between the adults and infants or kids rehabilitation during the meeting?
Okay, so in terms of, so the abstracts, I don't know yet because they're just coming in. In terms of symposiums, we have several that were pediatric in nature, but they are definitely a smaller number than the adult for sure. So I would say the majority are adult, but we do have some pediatric symposiums as well. And I would expect in the abstract regular sessions that there would be, I know several that are pediatric that were entered. So I would expect representation from pediatric, but it will be smaller than the adult.
Okay, I will speak in Spanish. Janice dice que hay menos cantidad de sesiones y de simposios para niños que en adultos, pero que hay actividades y simposios para niños durante el Congreso. Eso básicamente.
Perfecto. Yo creo que como nosotros siempre tenemos dificultades desde Latinoamérica en términos monetarios, ¿hay alguna beca en especial? ¿Qué tipo de beca hay para asistencia o no existe?
Janice, there are some economic help or funds or scholarships for the participants? Or it's possible to apply to some, I don't know, to support?
So there is a couple of different prices. There is a lower price for training students, and there is a lower price for developing countries. So I think it would depend on what country you are from, and I think it specifies what that cut point would be. So yes, there is some pricing.
Ajá, hay precios especiales para estudiantes y para países en desarrollo, en vías de desarrollo. Entonces, dependiendo del país en que tú estás, el precio debería cambiar y debería ser más económico.
Perfecto. No sé si como asociación creo que hay un precio diferenciado para los integrantes de la ALRN, en este caso de la World Federation.
The next question is if the members of the World Federation are have a different price or more convenient inscription.
Yes. So if you are a member of the World Federation or its sub-organization, you have a discount member fee. Yes.
Okay. Entonces, si tú eres parte de la Federación Mundial o de alguna de sus redes, como la ALRN, tú en el fondo tienes un precio especial y un descuento a la hora de inscribirte.
Perfecto. Entonces, aquí preguntan si habrá algunas sesiones que sean cursos de enseñanza, teaching course, cuánto cuesta hacerse miembro de la federación y si solo pueden ir los miembros de la federación.
There's some question about the meeting. The first one is if there are some sessions about teaching courses. The second one is about the cost to be member in the World Federation. And also if the meeting is just closed or focused on the members of World Federation or is open to another professionals.
So the conference is open to anyone who would like to attend. If you are a member of the World Federation and its organization, you get a discount, but anyone can attend.
Okay, the first question is if there are some teaching sessions or I don't know which mean teaching courses, I guess some, I don't know.
So on the first day, there is workshops that are provided, and they also have a certificate that is called, I don't know, UEMS. I don't know if that translates into some international like teaching. They are also getting certification for the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada for educational credits, but I'm not sure how that works internationally.
Okay. Hay algunos cursos certificados por la Sociedad de Rehabilitación Canadiense que ella no está segura de cómo funcionan fuera de Canadá, pero el día 1 hay sesiones de cursos tipo educación y que tienen una acreditación para el sistema canadiense que no está segura cómo funciona para el resto del mundo, pero hay.
Perfecto. Otra consulta que hay acá es específicamente en rehabilitación infantil. Sí se abordarán temas como la efectividad de la formación Cuevas MEDEC versus el método dinámico de movimiento o intervención de movimiento en el aprendizaje motor. O sea, en el fondo, si hay información o hay cursos específicos de aprendizaje motor en la población infantil.
The next question is about the pediatric rehabilitation. I don't know if, Janice, you can see the chat. There are some particular names about the Cuevas MEDEC techniques versus movement dynamic method intervention that is very specific. I don't know if you have information about the neurorehabilitation in pediatrics, and also, I don't know, if there are some research about motor learning in pediatric neurorehabilitation.
So I know there are several motor learning sessions in adult neurological rehabilitation. I don't know whether there are, how many there will be in here, infant in young children. The abstracts are due November 30th, so we haven't started to look at them yet. So I don't know, for example, dynamic movement and things like that, whether those would be in there or not.
Okay, Janice no está segura sobre estas técnicas en particular, pero hay muchas actividades sobre aprendizaje motor, muchas de ellas serán en adultos y en niños también, y hay que esperar también a la sesión de deadline del póster el 30 de noviembre.
Perfecto. No sé si queda alguna, que dejé para el último la consulta de Sebastián Gallegos, que tiene que ver con cómo participar la Asociación Latinoamericana, que lo vamos a mostrar con una breve diapositiva, así que no sé si del Congreso en especial hay alguna pregunta más para poder ya darle las gracias a Janice por su participación.
I think that there are not any additional questions about the meeting, and she wants to say thank you for help the Neurological Network of Latin America. And that's it. I don't know if you want to say something else, Mireya. ¿Tú quieres decir algo más, Mireya? Okay.
Sí, aquí Macarena escribió una pregunta, pero que a lo mejor podría ser un poco más específica porque es muy amplia. Dice, en relación a la rehabilitación, que es lo último que se está usando. No sé si es muy amplia la pregunta, me refiero a neurorehabilitación en especial.
Podemos discutirlo en la siguiente sesión.
Sí, porque es amplia. Sí, bueno, gracias, Janice. Creo que hay otro, sí, neurovegetativo, sí. Yo creo que es una pregunta amplia para explicar. Sí lo podemos reunir como un tema de interés para una próxima reunión, ¿no es cierto?, de la red latinoamericana. Queremos responder las dudas de cómo integrarse a la Asociación Latinoamericana de Rehabilitación Neurológica y qué es lo que se viene. Queremos darle las gracias a Janice. No sé si puedes ir traduciendo, Pablo, para
Janice,
que no se...
Thank you for joining us today. And we are continue explaining about how to join to the Latin American Network in Neurorehabilitation. Maybe if you want to disconnect and continue with your activities, will be totally fine.
Okay, thank you. There was one more question about, is it possible to promote ALRN during the meeting? And I think possibly we could have a slide with all the different sub-organizations in neurorehabilitation and do something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Janice dice que ella va a incluir a la Sociedad Latinoamericana de Neurorehabilitación en las presentaciones dentro de todas las satélites de la Federación Mundial.
Sí,
Thanks, Janice, for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Darle las gracias. Recordar que el año pasado en el Congreso en Austria, en Viena, tuvimos una participación como Asociación Latinoamericana, ¿no es cierto?, donde participó Pablo, que ahora nos está ayudando con la traducción desde Estados Unidos, participa yo también, y Mónica Pinzón, ¿no es cierto?, de Colombia, que fue una hermosa instancia, además de otros colegas de distintas áreas de Latinoamérica. Queremos explicarle ahora sí, Mauro, ¿podrías pasarnos la presentación brevemente para aquellos que ya están conectados y quieren saber cómo unirse a la Asociación Latinoamericana de Rehabilitación Neurológica? Los pasos para inscribirse son sencillos. Tienen que escribir un correo a la alrn.wfnr@gmail.com. Van a recibir acceso a un formulario de inscripción donde deben llenar sus datos y subir la información que le está solicitando. Hay dos tipos de inscripción, para profesionales y para estudiantes. Si ustedes son profesionales de la neurorehabilitación, ya sean médicos, neurólogos, kinesiólogos, fonoaudiólogos, etcétera, ustedes tendrán una alternativa de pago de 16 euros, que es una cuota anual y que les permitirá a la vez estar unidos a la WFNR, ¿ya? Recibirán un correo de confirmación, pero si son estudiantes podrán también seleccionar la alternativa de no pago. Una vez que ustedes hayan confirmado su membresía, empezarán a recibir la información de las reuniones, de las charlas, de los cursos y de las otras informaciones. Estudiante pregrado, sí. No sé si estudiante, Pablo, tú puedes ayudarnos. Estudiante de posgrado se incluye dentro de esa categoría como estudiante. Está escribiendo Pablo. Sí, dice, sí, estudiante de posgrado también.
Sí, sí.
¿Sí? ¿Ya? Entonces, escríbanos ahí para recibir la información y tenemos un evento muy especial porque como ya les comentamos al inicio, somos una asociación que lleva poco tiempo y por ende vamos a realizar una votación para elegir una directiva interina, ¿ya? ¿Quiénes van a poder participar de esa directiva? En realidad son aquellas personas que están inscritas en la asociación y que han realizado el pago de la membresía como parte de la votación, ¿ya? Entonces, el 14 de diciembre los invitamos a inscribirse para que en esa fecha ustedes puedan participar en esta votación de directiva interina. Solo podrán postular y votar los miembros activos con perfil profesional y todas las personas que estén inscritas van a recibir los estatutos que ya se han trabajado por parte de la asociación para que ustedes también puedan tener conocimiento de ellos, ¿ya? La votación será de manera online, a realizar el día 14 de diciembre, les va a llegar toda la información a aquellos a quienes son miembros activos. No sé si alguno de los integrantes de la red quiere hacer algún otro comentario.
Sí, simplemente un llamado importante para que Latinoamérica se posicione finalmente dentro de la Federación Mundial. Necesitamos formalmente establecer una directiva. Los desafíos de la directiva son bien simples. El estatuto tiene como dos grandes misiones, que es armar una especie de congreso latinoamericano cada 2 años y levantar una revista de difusión a nivel latinoamericano donde podamos publicar los distintos estudios o puntos de vista que vamos generando. Y es un trabajo arduo, requiere la participación de muchas personas. Esperamos que estemos bien representados en los distintos países y de a poco ir avanzando en invitar más gente, más países y estar cada vez más presente en el Congreso Mundial, y que en el fondo se reconozca que dentro de la región hay mucha gente activa haciendo muy buenas cosas en los distintos países.
Aquí Sebastián pregunta que le quedó la duda, dice, ¿qué beneficios tiene en relación con la WFNR? ¿Solo descuento en congresos o también pueden participar en actividades de la WFNR?
Sí, es más barato inscribirse por la Asociación Latinoamericana y ustedes pasan a ser miembros de la Federación Mundial y luego tienen todos los descuentos y beneficios de ser miembro de la Federación Mundial, por ejemplo en el Congreso, o para las otras iniciativas como cursos que se hagan. Y además, ¿cierto? Lo que dijo Janice, que ser parte de la Federación Latinoamericana tiene precios distintos en relación al país al que pertenezca, pero deberíamos en general tener precios más bajos que el resto de los países de Europa o Estados Unidos o Canadá.
Como les comentaba anteriormente también, nosotros tenemos, como podríamos decir, un espacio especial en estos tipos de eventos, entonces podemos ir como nuestros representantes de la Asociación Latinoamericana al Congreso Mundial. Ya, yo creo que estamos, ¿o no?
Perfecto,
No sé si
sí.
tienen algunas dudas. Hoy, muchas gracias. Yo no sé, no tengo el listado de los participantes, pero estamos muy, muy agradecidos por su participación. Agradecidos también a Janice por poder orientarnos un poco más acerca de este gran evento que se viene el año 2024 y esperamos que podamos tener como Asociación Latinoamericana una buena representación tanto en este próximo evento de elección como presencia ya en el Congreso.
Perfecto. Chao a todos. Muchas gracias.